And welcome to my final project. We are going to be exploring the topic of Instagram's algorithm versus Black women. In further detail, how the combination of photo editing apps, influencers, and beauty standards damage a Black woman's self-esteem. And my name is Malia Motes. My research question is going to be, how does social media, specifically Instagram, play a role in the way Black women perceive themselves? So we're going to start off with a little introduction to Instagram, and we're going to explore how the photo sharing app came to be a multi-billion-dollar company and kind of a culture in and of itself. To start off, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, the founders, began working on the app in 2010. It was supposed to be an app called Bourbon, which users can use to go ahead and find bourbon nearby at local places, but they quickly did not see any progress happening in that direction, so they switched to photography. But instead of just sharing photos, they want to focus on communication. So this is how they integrated likes, comments, shares, etc., alongside with filters and photo editing, which back in the day that was so innovative for apps at that time to go ahead and do that sort of thing. So that's why Instagram kind of became so successful. And in 2012, it was purchased by Facebook, which received backlash from users who were scared about Facebook collecting data from not just Facebook users, but also Instagram users. So Facebook was kind of becoming and kind of still is the monopoly of social media platforms. But the main shift we see in Instagram is the algorithm change that occurred in 2016, in which people's feeds changed from chronologically based to engagement based. So instead of going to your feed and seeing most recent to older photos as you scroll down, now you're seeing what Instagram thought you were most likely to engage with more. So at the top of your feed, if you were commenting on your friends' photos and liking them and sharing them, blah blah blah, you were most likely to go see that pop up in your feed first. Whereas content that you didn't so much engage with was going to show more towards the bottom. This change received a lot of backlash because if you think about it, users that were coming onto the app to maybe share their art or to go ahead and become influencers in themselves, it was going to be hard to go ahead and start from the bottom and against people that already had huge followings and huge engagement. So the net worth of Instagram is $102 billion, more than Twitter and Snapchat separately. And in August of 2021, or sometime recently, over 2 billion monthly users was confirmed, and it was 1 billion in June of 2018. So obviously a huge success. So the big concept I want to explore not only with this presentation but with my project is, does Instagram's algorithm slash culture go against Black women as a group? My thesis is, due to Instagram being the most appraised app for its aesthetics, it seemingly has profited from the insecurities of marginalized groups of women while also upholding European white beauty standards. This is done through influencers, FaceTune, colorism, blackfishing, and much more. So the effects of social media on self-worth. Self-worth, which is also interchangeable with self-esteem, is defined as confidence in one's worth or abilities. So we're now seeing likes, comments, and overall engagement being directly linked to the way people feel about themselves. So if someone posts a selfie and they're getting a massive amount of likes, they're now thinking, hey, I'm pretty, or, people like me, and stuff like that. A quote from one of my sources says, women whose self-concept is vulnerable to feedback face challenges in terms of managing stress, viewing oneself in a positive light, and experiencing depressive symptoms. So those that really focus on the numbers and focus their worth on pretty much quantitative data were seeing high levels of depression, anxiety, etc. And those that grew up on social media were definitely more susceptible to this because it's during that developmental phase where people want to fit in, be well liked. So what better way to prove that than with mass amount of likes? And Instagram, of course, took notice of this, and this year gave users the option to go and remove likes from their posts so that people can go and feel kind of more better about themselves. Intersectionality. Intersectionality can best be defined by Kimberly Crenshaw, who says it's a theory on how race, class, gender, and other individual characteristics intersect with one another and overlap. So for Black women, that sexism and racism working together to oppress them and pretty much attack them as a marginalized group. But this can be expanded and overlapped with sizeism, colorism, ableism, etc. And the reason colorism is is bolded is because a study showed that African American girls ranging in ages from 12 to 16 years old associated lighter skin with wealth, beauty, and other positive connotations, whereas darker skin was linked with words such as ghetto, hood, and overall unattractiveness. And unfortunately, these same ideas that were implemented in these young girls' head is also being reflected on Instagram. And one way we're seeing this is through the concept of blackfishing. Blackfishing is a range of practices such as altering physical appearances through physical and digital means, adopting certain terms and linguistic patterns associated with ebonics, and the endorsement or selling of products that replicate urban aesthetics. So both of these women are white. We have Samantha Rayner, Emma Halberg. They can both be defined as influencers. This is Samantha 2 years ago, and this is Samantha in 2021, I believe in August. Emma is notoriously known for blackfishing, and someone exposed her as this because a lot of people thought she was actually black, but it turns out she's very much white. Her nose is changed, her mouth is bigger, tan skin in and of itself. And this is really damaging because we're seeing these black features that were once, black women were bullied for being put on these white bodies and therefore being made sexualized and sought after. And both of these women are pretty much doing pretty well. She's being sponsored by Pretty Little Thing, she's being sponsored by Fashion Nova, so obviously capitalism is definitely seeing the benefit to this. Next up, we have FaceTune and Its Purpose. FaceTune is a photo editing app where users can modify, retouch, and essentially edit any photo they want to their liking. So it's pretty much Photoshop, but more beginner friendly. It has been used to complete temporary body modifications, so people may use the app to, get bigger boobs or slim their waist or to go ahead and make their stomach more smaller, things like that. Arguments have been made about enforcing individuals to disclose when they use FaceTune. In the UK, they were actually thinking about passing a law to where people that use Facetune, they had to go ahead and put that on the photos because they were seeing such a huge issue with body dysmorphia, which is pretty much when people feel kind of out of place or they kind of don't feel aligned with their body, which is becoming a huge issue, of course, because we're seeing more plastic surgery now more than ever. And Facetune is even used by plastic surgeons to go and kind of show the before after, like, here's what you look like, here's what I can turn you into. So obviously Facetune is being used pretty much even outside of Instagram, and this has benefits and consequences. So we have Tana Mojo. This is the Facetune. This is the original. I don't know this woman, but this is the Facetune, and this is the original. So obviously we're seeing people using the app to go and make themselves essentially fit beauty standards more. So where does this leave black women? Darker skinned black women are seen as unattractive while simultaneously having their black features pasted onto non-black women. So the big lips, the more voluptuous hips, curly hair, even darker skin, is getting put on these white or non-black bodies and being, profited on. As I say, capitalism preys on this. Light-skinned black women are fetishized, sexualized, but also disregarded. People often like to go ahead and look at light skin. Like I said, with the African American girls, they look at light skin as beauty and like all these positive things, but in general, they're really sexualized, but not really respected. This led to the creation of Black Girl Magic, where black women found it upon themselves to create a space online. This is on Instagram, in which they can go share their selfies with things such as, dark skin or 4C hair and things like that. And also with black women, they have to deal with the effects of sexism alongside with all women, on top of other marginalized identities, which I mentioned before, such as colorism, sizeism, things like that. And the culture is constantly getting stolen due to easy accessibility and lack of accountability. So we're seeing, social media outlets, we're seeing more races kind of come together and viewing what it's like to go and be in black people's shoes, Asian people's shoes, et cetera, et cetera. But this is now, people kind of see that as, hey, maybe I can go ahead, take a little bit of their culture and see what happens. And there is a lack of accountability. Cancel culture exists, but there's not really any repercussions from cancel culture. So what did I do? For my project, I interviewed 4 Black women separately and questioned them about their experiences being on Instagram. The purpose of this was to obtain real life narratives from Black women in regards to representation, social media, beauty standards, colorism, sense of belonging, racism, and much more. So alongside with the interviews, I did a entire video kind of delving into some of the topics I touched on beforehand and kind of made it like a YouTube-esque type of video. Um, and yeah. So the results from the interviews showed that, like most women who engage on social media, there are feelings of insecurity and body image issues. These are Black women, so of course they're gonna feel the need to compare themselves just in general. But there was an overwhelming sense of she doesn't look like me when they first joined the app, because most of them joined when they were younger. So when they first joined, they were seeing girls, predominantly white, that did not look like them, did not have their hair, did not have their body type, etc. So first joining the app and kind of wanting to go ahead and look different and look like her, quotation marks. Growing up, having to intentionally go and look for people to follow that looks like them because they aren't pushed onto explore pages. This is why, like I mentioned before, Black Girl Magic was made so that Black girls had a space on Instagram they can go to and find other girls that maybe even look like them, because you can't really see that on just explore page on itself. They also said that users in Instagram itself are to blame for upholding certain experiences. So not just Instagram, the app, but also the people that use the app are feeding into these beauty standards and feeding into these into using FaceTune, into getting BBLs recently. So we're seeing, kind of accountability on both ends. And most of them agreed, actually, no, I think all of them agreed that FaceTune should be disclosed to viewers because, we're seeing airbrush makeup, we're seeing poreless skin, we're seeing snatch waists, and that's not attainable in regular everyday life without, either Facetune or extreme lens plastic surgery. So, in conclusion, overall, it is safe to say most women experience the same feelings of inferiority and suffer from comparing themselves to others on Instagram. However, Black women face separate challenges in trying to navigate an app that seems adamant in representing a certain look, whether that be body type, race, facial features, etc. When we are younger, constant images of women who don't look like us being Black women, are being pushed into our brains as the beauty standard. Although some, like the interviewees, are able to overcome that stage of insecurity, for others it may have lasting effects that can trail into adulthood. Both Instagram and the users have a responsibility to ensure that young Black girls, and girls in general, honestly, don't grow up thinking they're not enough and that all body types, regardless of race, size, color, disability, etc., are well represented. So pretty much that's the conclusion of my project. The video associated with this should be linked later on, probably like a couple hours after I upload this. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to go see what you guys also came up with. And I hope everyone has a good winter break. Thank you.